You probably already know how Julius Caesar died, stabbed 23 times on the floor of the Senate by men who claim they were saving the Roman Republic from a dictator. If you don't know that story, I have a video about it on this channel. Check it out. What you might not know is that their plan backfired so spectacularly that instead of saving the Republic, they cleared the path for a brand new king, Rome's first emperor, Augustus. How did Augustus become emperor? Let's dig in. The conspirators, Brutus, Cassius, and the rest who stabbed Caesar 23 times on the floor of the Roman Senate, believed they'd be hailed as heroes. Congratulations, Rome! We saved you from a tyrant. Yeah, that's not what happened. At Caesar's funeral, Marc Antony delivered one of the greatest political speeches in history. A speech so powerful, Shakespeare basically copied it word for word 1,600 years later. Antony held up Caesar's bloody toga. He pointed to the stab wounds. He described each senator who struck the blow, and the crowd lost it. This was important for Marc Antony. As Caesar's right-hand man, he had hoped to be the next in line for Caesar's power. If Caesar was the bad guy, that would be bad for him. No, Caesar needed to be the good guy, and Antony's clever speech flipped the script. Suddenly, Brutus and Cassius weren't heroes, they were villains, hunted men. Now they were the bad guys. Caesar was the good guy. Genius. Only Marc Antony's plan didn't exactly work as expected. A shy, sickly 18-year-old kid named Octavian hit the jackpot. In his will, Julius Caesar posthumously adopted his grandnephew Octavian as his son. It was like hitting the lottery for Octavian. He went from run-of-the-mill to superstar heir to Caesar's power just like that. Imagine Antony reading that Caesar left his entire political legacy to this teenager? Not cool. Antony didn't have much of a choice. Caesar's soldiers would follow Caesar's heir, and that was Octavian. So Antony teamed up with Octavian, and they added a steady, stable political figure named Marcus Lepidus to their coalition. Together, the three formed the Second Triumvirate. After all, the First Triumvirate had been so successful. Wait, Crassus got himself killed, Caesar and Pompey fought a civil war to the death, and that ended in Caesar's rising as a dictator for life and a subsequent brutal murder by angry senators. On second thought, that really didn't turn out very well. Anyway, this alliance had one goal: hunt down Caesar's killers, all of them, and they did. They defeated Brutus and Cassius at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC. Both assassins died at their own hands by falling on their swords. Takes care of that. Caesar was avenged, and now that the bad guys were gone, the triumvirate had no reason to stay friendly. Lepidus saw the writing on the wall and said, yeah, you know what, I'm good. I'm just going to quietly retire myself. You two clearly need the stage, and honestly, smart man. He bowed out in 36 BC, leaving the Second Triumvirate down to just Antony and Octavian, the final round. And there was no universe in which these two were going to share power. At first, they tried to pretend everything was fine. They even tied themselves together by marriage. Marc Antony married Octavian's sister Octavia, who was kind, loyal, level-headed, and honestly way too good for him. But here's where the beef sizzles. While Octavia was in Rome trying to support Antony politically, Antony was, well, in Egypt with Cleopatra. Again. And in 32 BC, Antony made the dumbest political move possible. He divorced Octavia, Octavian's beloved sister, and married Cleopatra in a full Egyptian ceremony. Octavian looked at it like, oh good, so you want me to tell Rome you're basically a terrible person and you want to become pharaoh now? Thank you for all the ammunition I could possibly use to destroy you with propaganda. And Octavian used it brilliantly. He painted Antony as a traitor who was controlled by a foreign queen, a man who abandoned his Roman wife, someone trying to give Roman land to Cleopatra and her children, and worst of all, someone who wanted to make Alexandria, Egypt, the new capital of Rome. Romans ate it up. Octavian didn't even have to lie very much. He just highlighted Antony's bad choices and let the outrage grow. By the time 31 BC came around, most Romans saw Antony not as a hero, but as a man who had gone full Egyptian supervillain. That's the real spark that ignited the war. Antony broke the alliance the moment he broke his marriage to Octavia. And Octavian made absolutely sure the world noticed. Octavian's smear campaign worked brilliantly, and Antony knew he was politically ruined. The only way to beat Octavian now was to fight. This town ain't big enough for the two of us. 31 BC, the final showdown, Octavian versus Antony and Cleopatra. The future of Rome on the line. Octavian, with the political and military power of his dear father, Julius Caesar, headed to confront Antony. Antony, with the Egyptian navy and Cleopatra at his side, headed to confront Octavian. They met at Actium near Greece. Let's just say this wasn't a good situation for Antony and Cleopatra. Things started going sideways fast, and Octavian was dominating the naval battle. And then, right as the battle was raging, something unbelievable happened. Antony and Cleopatra bailed out. They literally turned their ships around and fled back to Egypt. Octavian told Antony's soldiers, "Look at your great leader. He's running away. He's leaving you and headed back to Egypt with that witch Cleopatra. Come join me instead." And many of them did. Once Octavian crushed Antony and Cleopatra's forces at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, he didn't waste any time. He gathered his legions, secured the Mediterranean, and began marching, slowly, deliberately, straight toward Egypt. And Cleopatra knew what that meant. She and Antony retreated to Alexandria, scrambling to prepare for the inevitable. They repaired ships, fortified the city, tried to keep morale up, but deep down, everyone knew the truth. Rome was coming, and this time Rome had a man who wasn't going to lose. Antony's loyalty to Cleopatra was absolute, politically, romantically, disastrously, but the moment that sealed his fate wasn't political at all. It came from a rumor. A messenger rushed in and told Antony something horrific. Cleopatra is dead. Historically, the rumor may have been engineered by Cleopatra's attendants as part of a plan, or it may have just been a tragic mistake, but Antony believed it instantly. This was the woman he had gambled his career on. The woman he'd defied Rome for. The woman he had married, he raised children with, and followed into a war he couldn't win. And now she was gone? Antony was devastated. In true Roman tragic hero style, he decided that if Cleopatra was dead, he wouldn't outlive her. He fell on his sword, literally, the traditional Roman way of choosing an honorable death. But because Antony's luck had been consistently terrible for the past year, he missed or slipped or didn't hit the right spot or something. Whatever the reason, he didn't die. He lay there bleeding in agony, thinking Cleopatra was gone, until someone rushed in and said, "Wait, good news, she's still alive." Now you tell me. Typical Antony. Even in his dramatic exit didn't go according to plan. Barely conscious, Antony begged to be taken to her. Cleopatra, hiding in her mausoleum, not dead, just preparing for the worst, had him hoisted up through a window because she didn't want Octavian's soldiers to find them together. Ancient historians describe the scene as incredibly emotional. Cleopatra weeping, holding the dying Antony in her arms while he told her to make peace with Octavian, to trust no one, and to take care of their children. Moments later, Antony died. Not on the battlefield, not in victory, not in triumph, but in the arms of the last person who still believed in him. Touching. When Octavian finally marched into Alexandria, Cleopatra understood exactly what awaited her. A humiliating parade through Rome, probably dragged in chains, mocked by crowds with rotten food or poo thrown at her, and then an execution as a spectacle, possibly crucifixion. She had no intention of ending her life as a trophy in someone else's victory parade. So she crafted one last legendary act. According to tradition, she smuggled a basket of figs into her chamber, and hidden inside was something spicy. I can imagine what the scene might have been like. Cleopatra is a prisoner in her own palace, Octavian's men holding her hostage. She asks one of her servants to get her something to eat, some figs with something extra spicy in it. The servant leaves the room knowing what to do, as a guard gruffly asks, "What are you doing?" The servant responds, "Just getting something for my queen, some figs to eat." "Okay, make it quick and don't try anything sneaky." "You got it, sir." She smiles and winks. The servant returns with the basket. The guard inspects it. Doesn't see anything in there out of the ordinary. It looks okay to him, and the servant takes it to Cleopatra. When Cleopatra opens the basket, she finds a poisonous snake inside along with the figs. She lets the snake bite her, and that's the end of Cleopatra. Historians aren't 100% on this one, but it doesn't really matter. Whether it was a snake bite, poison ointment, or another deadly action, we don't really know for sure, but what we do know is Cleopatra took her own life rather than be paraded through the streets of Rome as Octavian's trophy. When Octavian finally reached her chamber, she was already dead. It was the end of the last pharaoh of Egypt, last of Egypt being an independent country. Right on is what Octavian probably thought, No more Marc Antony, no more Cleopatra, no more rivals at all. Now Octavian had all the cards. He was the last man standing. He could march into the Senate, slam down his sword, demand total power, and follow in Julius Caesar's footsteps. But he remembered what happened to Julius Caesar when he tried that. 23 stab wounds worth of "we don't want a king." Octavian was smart enough to know how this could end for him, so he walked into the Senate and did the exact opposite. He gave up his power, said he wanted to retire, hand the Republic back to the Senate, and the Senate panicked. No, please don't go. The place is a mess. We need you. We need somebody to lead us out of this mess. Really? You want me to stay? I just can't. I can't. I learned the lesson from dear old Julius, and I don't want that to happen to me. They begged him to stay. They begged him to take authority. They begged him to save Rome. So Octavian reluctantly agreed. Well, if you're begging me to stay, I guess I could hang on to power for a little while, or forever. But he didn't call himself dictator. He was smart enough to realize that was a bad idea. He called himself princeps, first citizen, a humble title for a man who basically held absolute power anyway. The Senate crowned him with a new name, eventually, Augustus, meaning the revered one. And that was the beginning of the Roman Empire, according to most historians. Julius Caesar tried to take power, and the Senate brutally murdered him for it. Octavian found a clever way to get the Senate to give him the power, and they did it with applause and cheers of joy. Brilliant. Well played, Octavian. Well played. So, the men who assassinated Julius Caesar to save the Republic ended up paving the way for an emperor. They tried to stop one king and created another. And Augustus ruled Rome for decades, died peacefully in his bed, and became one of the most successful leaders in world history. Quite an epic backfire for the assassins, for sure. This is Have to Know History. History you just have to know. Thanks for being here.